So, good afternoon. We will start this webinar on low carbon travel. First of all, I am Jose Maria de Juan. I will be the moderator and initially the speaker too of this webinar. We have another person, Susana Conde, which will join us in a while because she's coming from another session in 15 or 20 minutes. So I will start, and then in a while I will welcome her, who will be also a speaker today. And as we do in all this series of webinars, will be a time for the open debate. We will be not many people, so we can do it directly. You don't need to use the chat. For sure you can use it, but we can do it with opening the micro at any time. And before sharing the screen, just to say why we are here. This is a webinar also supported by the International Social Tourism Organization. We as Koan, our company, we are members of this organization based in Brussels, and we are also members of the board currently. And then we decided to support this week the International OITS week on fair and sustainable travel, or fair and sustainable tourism, is an initiative that we started during the pandemics, because we had, as everybody, our 2-yearly Congress foreseen for Peru in early 2020. When the pandemics arrived, we couldn't do it. Then we decided to have a week online with presentations of the different initiatives and the good practices of our members. It was very successful, so we repeated in 2021, and we repeat now. Even with this year, we recover our face-to-face Congress. It will be in Azores at the end of I think mid-October, supported by the government of Azores, and then it will be a very nice occasion to recover our face-to-face job. But in the meanwhile, especially to make it easier for our colleagues, our members all over the world, especially very active in Europe, Latin America, and Africa, we are organizing this week. We just had as a webinar on the sustainability labels presenting the Good Travel program. Some of their members and collaborators are also here, and also we are organizing this webinar on low carbon travel, where we present at least one project, and probably if Susana has enough time, we'll present another one, but we'll have a global discussion on that. No, what we are doing all this is because it's part of the objectives of the International Social Tourism Organization, also the objectives of our company, which is the Tourism for All. Tourism for All means that within this organization, we have a task force for responsible tourism, is where I work, under my president, Maurizio D'Abolio, the president of the Italian Association for Responsible Tourism. We have task force for accessibility, task force working with the gender equality. Just yesterday, we had our General Assembly, and we approved a charter on gender equality on sustainable tourism, something that will be published and disseminated very, very soon. We are working especially to ensure the dignity of the holidays for every person. And I mentioned that also in the webinar before. It generates sometimes contradictions, because at the end, what we defend, what we intend, is that everybody in the world, from all the human diversity, every ethnia, every social class, every income, every social level, etc., has access to a nice holiday time as a human right. And this is what we have as the goal of our organization, among many others. And then sometimes when talking about low carbon travel, we are talking about how to reduce the gas emissions, how to fight the climate change, but in the same time, we want everybody to have access to the tourism. So this is something, it's a good debate that comes from time to time in different meetings. And once I said that, I start sharing the screen where I have a short collection of ideas and reflections that especially what I want is to open them for the following debate. We can have the debate until 19:45, or we can do it until 20 today. So it's okay. An hour and a half maximum is perfect for this webinar, and especially we choose this timing because of our colleagues of Latin America, because we have many of them there, and this is why we decide to do this for Europe sometimes strange timing. I will start sharing the screen. Also to remind you that all this is being recorded. So at the end of the webinar, once we make some edition of it, it will be shared to all the organizations, not only to the participants, but to the OITS, to the every network on sustainable tourism we belong, including green destinations and good travel programs. So we'll ensure that the dissemination of the webinar and the proposals will be everywhere. So this is part of the importance of having this webinar today. And then just a moment, I have to I start sharing that. Just a minute, and then we start sharing. Yep, I think here you are. I think now you are. You can see the screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. So we can start. So I just to start with the questions I wanted to put. The idea is to have today not only the presentation of the project, which is a very recent project, so still we don't have too much to say. We can share our intentions, but we cannot share what we have done because we just started. We have 2 years in front of us, and then we'll present you the details in a while, but initially I wanted just to share with you some reflections as a sustainable tourism consultant and trainer. I face many discussions, many forums, many webinars and meetings with my clients, with my colleagues like Adriana, which is also working today in the seminars with us, just taking care of the technical part. And for sure, as member of Koan and member of this project I will present, she will be ready to answer and to participate whenever she wants. And the question for me is that if we have to talk about the trends and the context, just to introduce a bit the issue, and then we have some food for thought and especially some food for debate. There are, from my point of view, there are too many ingredients in the pot. So in one side, I feel, and I share it with many of my colleagues, that looks like even with we are talking about sustainability more than ever after the pandemics, somehow in some contexts and some destinations looks like we are going back to the old track. We see again the queues, we see again the big masses of tourists in some beaches, we see again the collapse at the airport. So we are still looking at many images that we thought during the pandemics that it was all this reflection on we have to go to another model of tourism. There were so many forums talking about that and talking about that the new tourist after the pandemics will be more sustainable. We still have to prove that if it's true or not. So it's something that we have to question ourselves if we are really in the good track or we are going back to the old track, which was leading to a collapse. 2019 was a year that it was incredibly good from the point of view of the numbers for many destinations, but in some cases it was also leading to the total collapse of some destinations, some islands in the in the Mediterranean, like Mallorca, for example. It was absolute collapse of traffic and enormous queues to just to return the car at the airport, etc. There was no limit of the number of rental cars driving in the island. So it was a kind of a mess, and this mess was in many other destinations. It's something that was in 2019 making us to reflect, but then the pandemics came and then we forgot about. But now some of this phenomenon of the over-tourism are coming, and if the over-tourism comes, it comes the tourismophobia with it, and then I think it's not a very good idea. We have seen that this flight scam phenomenon, the shame of flight in this movement born in the Scandinavian countries of avoiding these short flights, the short flights within Europe, especially for the short breaks. And it's something that at the beginning it was not even considered by the airlines, but already in 2018 or 19, I don't remember exactly, it was already in the board of in the agenda of the meetings of the international associations of air travel. It was in the agenda to talk about the fly scam, how it was already affecting and reducing in very small percentage, it's true, reducing the number of flights in Scandinavian countries, and they were being exchanged by travel by train. So officially more low carbon travel than the flights. It's something that I don't know if there is an observatory of how this is evolving, but I remember perfectly that we were talking about a good percentage of the population was refusing totally the short flights, the more polluting ones, and they were exchanging it for other means of land public transport. I think also we have to consider, because whenever I mention the low carbon travel, I don't know why, immediately everybody starts talking about the flights and about the transport, but I don't know why we should talk about the rest, because at the end, the low carbon travel means everything, means the lodging, means the food production. So if we analyze the food production, we are producing enormous quantities of emissions to produce the food, enormous quantities of emissions to transport the food, and then enormous quantities of emissions to deal with the waste of the food, because the food waste is around 30% average in many tourist and resorts. So at the end, it would be good if we can compare if really what is polluting more, maybe it's not the tourists, what we are transporting, all the products we are carrying to the destinations. And this something, these figures in such a detail, they are very difficult to find, because we don't have so far, for sure, there are observatories on climate change and carbon emissions, etc. But there is not really a big and a really deep analysis of what we need in the cruises, in the excursions, in the local amenities. How much are we spending in carbon emissions, in producing and carrying all these amenities in the rooms of the hotel? So there are so many things that we have to consider, and I think it's important to make a reflection of that, because it's very easy to blame the flights, because it's very easy to blame the cruises because they are very big. They have a very enormous impact in the images. When we see these big cruises in Venice or in Malaga or in Barcelona, they impress a lot, but we have also to consider what is hidden, all the emissions that are not so easy to visualize and to add it to the pot. No, I think it's also not just a question of calculation and compensation. I think it's also important to consider that it's not just a policy of okay, then if I am polluting, then I compensate, so we are all fine. This is not the point, and I know that we all know that for in the future this will be not so easy. It will be the new policies of the European Union are in a different way. So we need just to avoid and to reduce the emission. It's not just a question of I do whatever I want as soon as I can compensate it later. It's not just a question about climate change. There are many other things involved. For example, losing landscapes in some of the coastal areas, losing opportunities for the local population to do other things once they have been extremely concentrated during decades in the tourism activity. And with this climate change, some of them, you will see how the resources disappear, some beaches, some islands, depending where the climate conditions are changing totally and changing the trends of the tourists. So I think we have to try to be a bit, to have a wider vision and go a bit beyond the climate change. Going back to this initial idea of the back to the old track questions, if this, I have seen this name, is very funny, the revenge tourism. So we, after 2 years of pandemics, we want to travel. So people is traveling extremely. I see that in my country, in Spain, everything is starting being full for the summer. The rates are increasing enormously for the flights, for the hotels, forever. People is ready to pay whatever as soon as they have holidays. And then I go again to the question, is true that we are really better tourists now? Why? How can we see if we are better tourists, and how maybe can we support the tourists to be better from the sustainability point of view? We can take note of all that for the deflection. Then I think that this we are leading to the question of the hypermobility. So far in the traditional model, the tourism is based in the extreme mobility. We travel a lot, and then the analysis before the pandemics, some of the analysis, they were leading to the increasing of the number of, especially long distance travel. It was more travels per year, but less time every travel. So it was a trend of instead of having a holiday of 25 days, so to say, they were, I remember, an average in 2015 or 14 in the Dutch market in Holland. It was like the average was 3.5 long distance travel per year. So the people prefer to have the 3 trips of 10 days to Peru, to Thailand, and to Costa Rica instead of having one. So what does it mean in terms of carbon emissions? And then we have to reconduct this tourism based in the hyper mobility, in the need of seeing absolutely every resource with the plane or with bus or with our car. So I think it's the model of responsible tourism has something to say here. Still more things. In the low-cost model, we are coming back to the low-cost model. who's paying the energy bill? Because so far, the only possibility of having this low-cost model running is because the fuel of the planes of the low-cost companies, they are not paying really the cost of the fuel. There are subsidies from the countries, from the destinations, from many institutions like even the European Union, and then it's possible to have all these cheap flights for many destinations within the world because the companies are not paying really what the cost of the fuel. If we have to pay the cost of the fuel, and now with the energetic crisis looks like it will happen, then the low-cost model will be unable to continue. So it's something that we have to consider. How can we adapt all these flows of tourists, all this need of tourism to another model, because the low-cost model will be very difficult to maintain with the rising prices of the energy and especially of the fuel. We also identified in the last years that somehow it was a new model of the elite responsible tourism. So there were many small resorts and sustainable hotels. It came the new concept, which is called sustainable luxury. So it was sustainable, but it was completely isolated from the local reality. I don't feel this is sustainable. If I have a sustainable resort from the point of view of the materials and the water and whatever, but I live completely isolated from the local community, not interacting, I disagree totally that we can call it sustainable, but this is how is it called. We also have the discussion of the electric mobility. Can we change all the traditional mobility to electric mobility? Maybe not. Maybe we are also looking at this fight for the lithium and the fight for all these minerals needed for the batteries. If we change all the vehicles in the world for electric cars, then the disaster will be even probably even worse, because we are demolishing many places because we need these materials for the batteries. So it's not so easy to say, okay, now I changed my old car for an electric car, so I am a sustainable tourist, now I can drive whatever I want. This is not so easy. Less trips, as I was mentioned, especially this increase of the prices of the fuel is especially harming the more isolated destinations and the long haul travel. This is why we can see that even this summer, or the summer we welcome today, precisely 21 of June. And if we look at some countries like the country where I am now in Spain, there is an incredible amount of travel, but mainly domestic travel, European travel, and some destinations which have been the first one in being reactivated, like Costa Rica and Dominicana, but for many reasons, most of this mass of tourists is concentrating in the nearby countries, so it's especially within Europe. So this is not totally balanced if we talk about the profitability of this model for all the world. We need to enhance the public transport, because somehow, for example, in many rural destinations in Spain and in other countries of Europe, we see that the policy is, no, we want to decarbonize the destination, we want to promote the low carbon travel, but the public transport is a disaster, so it's impossible. Then the people, we promote tourism and everybody has to come with their own car because the public transport does not work. So this, I think we need to solve this kind of contradictions. The impact has been very big in the business travel and in the MICE, in the meetings, incentives, conference and events. It has been very hard for this sector, which is the last one in recovering. They recover very slow in comparison to the vacational, to the holiday makers tourism. For future projects and for future developments, and then I will talk about the practices. We need to count with the key role of the travel agents. We need to count with the tour operators. This is why we present this project I will present in some minutes. And also we needed to count with the role of tourists. So we cannot think that if working only one side it will work. We need complicity. We need coherent messages. We need transparency. And to be able to use this key role of the incoming companies, local tour operators in transmitting the tourists that we really want to have a different tourism model, and then we can have this discussion. No, this is the first bunch of ideas. I hope you took note of some of them, and then with your own ideas, because I am sure that same as I did this reflection before this webinar, I'm sure that you have all these questions too, these kind of questions, and probably many others, and I have no idea about. So I think we can have a very nice discussion after that. And then now I want just to share very briefly, because as I mentioned, we just started. We started a project which is called ATRA, in French will be Agir pour un tourisme responsable européen, in Spanish Actuar para un turismo responsable en Europa, Act for a Responsible Tourism in Europe. And then I will show you later the partners of this project. Some of them are joining us today. And the main objective, as I told you, this is something new. We had our kickoff meeting in Bologna, Italy, in March this year. So this is pretty new. It's a newborn project, and we are still building materials and developing ideas and looking for the best ways to perform the challenge we have, that they are very big, as you'll see in a couple of minutes. And then the idea is to create and animate a network of European tourism actors who are committed with the sustainable tourism development, who are responsible to disseminate the results, the materials produced by the project within the respective countries and networks, and especially oriented. For sure, they will come at the end many other collateral activities, but the main thing, the main goal is the project is to promote and to facilitate the low carbon travel practices. This project for sure is framed within the objectives of the Paris Agreement about the climate change and the European Green Deal. So it's something that we don't need more explanation. The audience, as I mentioned, they are all of them, all the actors and stakeholders, so meaning the travel agents and tour operators, meaning the local tourism producers, any kind of activity providers, local transport, lodging, hospitality, guides, gastronomy, restoration, tourism activities, incoming networks, even the destinations that are collaborating, the destination management organization at local level. So every stakeholder will be welcome, even if the main goal of the objective is the tourism producers, and especially travel agents and tour operators. They are very worried about what they can do. This is something that we have been testing in our different countries of the project partners. And for sure, the tourists, we have to produce something that the tourists can use to get informed, to get more inspired, and also to get committed with the mitigation of the climate change and the low carbon travel. This project will be carried out through different proposals, but based in digital transformation. So this is the tool to facilitate the sustainable development, where the digital tools will be not the objective, they are at the service of the sustainability. These objectives will be materialized in 3 very concrete actions: online game, the MOOC, a massive open online course on low carbon travel, and a mobile application. So this is, we can get into the details in the future, because now we are, as I mentioned, just developing it. There are some forcing actions that we can For sure, there are many. This is very huge content of the project, but to make it in brief for this webinar, so we have time later for the rest of the presentation and the debate. The content of these tools will be oriented first to provide knowledge to tourism actors on the climate change and how is this relationship of the climate change with the global tourism sector, how the climate is damaging tourism, how tourism is damaging the climate, destinations that can disappear, resources that can be damaged, population that have to move. So many things we have to consider, and this will be the module understand. We need to know, maybe we should say that, we need to know first and then immediately to understand, but if we don't know, it's no way we can understand. Then we need the tools. Then once we understand and know, we need to supply tools to mitigate and compensate the impact. So this will be the module ACT. And then we have to boost the sensitivity with the issue by sharing good practices and sharing something that tourists and travel agents and whoever business can do it with the eco gestures. No? So something that is applicable and replicable. This is the main idea. Very, very in brief, because I don't want to monopolize the word. Maybe I monopolize it too much already. And the partners, they are the very good ones. We are very, very happy as Koan Consulting from Spain to be, we are honored to be accompanied by these partners. The leading partner is from France, Agir pour un tourisme responsable, ITR, which is the Association of Responsible Tour Operators, if I can explain in that. It sounds much better in French. Then we have the Associazione Italiana Turismo Responsabile, la ITR, which are also members of the international social tourism organizations with us for many years, also partnering with us in many other projects before. So this is very good to have them here. So the first really big network of responsible tourism founded in Europe, and thanks to their leadership, we were able to build the European Alliance for Responsible Tourism and Hospitality 14 years ago. We have the l'Union Professionnelle des Agences de Voyage in Belgium, the professional union of travel agents in Belgium. We have also two other technical partners, which are Travel Pro Formations. Travel Pro Formation, based in Paris, is a center of training for the tourism professionals and the travel companies, based for the French and Francophone sector. And then finally, we have our Greek partners, the Mediterranean Center for Environment, MKP. I don't know how to pronounce it in Greek, but it sounds very well, by the way. And then we are the partners, and then as you will have the recording of all that, where you can find all the information. I put also in the presentation the different links. As soon as the project we will have their own website, for sure we will share this in all our networks, but so far you can have the information of we are intending to do. It's a big challenge. We know that it will be not easy at all in the middle of this tourism recovery, energy crisis, conflicts. This morning, I heard in a conference on the Global Compact that we are now living in the world of the three C's. I took note because they were COVID, climate, and conflicts. So I think it's a very, very sharp vision of what we are facing now. We are talking here a bit more about climate, but we have to talk about many other things. So I will start, I will end of sharing the screen. And then I see that my friend and the next speaker, Susana Conde, is here.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
I'm here, yes.
I understand you have seen all the slides.
Yes, more or less. But it's true that you put only the first one slide. That it was impossible to see all the presentation. I think.
Strange that. Okay, so I'm sorry for that, because I was sat in the window and I was moving it, but for some reason it does not work. I don't know why. Okay, then we will share the presentation, by the way. So it has been some technical issue, so I didn't know it was happening. So it's quite strange. It happened to me in another seminar some weeks ago, but and we were unable to correct it. Is something very strange. I'm sorry for that. But at the end, I have been telling you whatever is on the slide. So I think it will be just slides with plain text, because I wanted especially to share the ideas. I'm sorry for this technical issue. And now I open the floor to Susana Conde. Susana is from Genuine Spain, a tour operator also working very directly on the climate change travel related. So she's one of the pioneers in Spain in this kind of things, and also in Europe, many years working in the issue and doing many other things that she can explain much better. And also we are collaborating nowadays in a project related to the mutual impact of tourism and climate change, and it's something that I also told her if she can say us some words about. So thank you very much, Susana, for being here, and then the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to explain a little bit what we are doing now, and as you say, what we are doing from 13 years ago, no? As a local incoming agency specialized in sustainable tourism and ecotourism. I have not a presentation, but I would like to share my website, because there we can see well what we are working related climate change. Here in our website you can see climate friendly trips, and now I will explain better. And as you say, bueno, good afternoon everyone. I'm Susana Conde, the founder and the director of Genuine Spain. We are an incoming travel agency specialized, as I said before, in sustainable and ecotourism here in Spain. We work all Spain and for all kind of travelers. And yes, I'm entrepreneur, of course, but I'm trainer and senior international consultant in sustainable tourism, ecotourism, and climate change in these last years. It's true that about 4 years ago, more or less, I have detected that there was a great lack of knowledge, research, and initiative against climate change in tourism sector, especially here in Spain. For that, I decided to start to study and to learn more about climate change and tourism. For that, I have completed several international courses, and right now, last week, I have just finished the first international diploma in climate-friendly travel by the Institute of Tourism of Malta. And in addition, since 2019, we are starting with our incoming company specialized in sustainable tourism in Spain to develop low carbon tourism products and measure our emissions. I will share too after our own calculator, because we were working with other kind of calculators from, I don't remember, from maybe 10 years ago. And at the end, when we decided to use and to have our own calculator of emissions. During all this time, when we had also taken these aspects into account, and trying not to develop another kind of tourism offers and products and services here in Spain. In 2020, our challenge was to measure the impact of our activity. It was a pity because in 2020 it was impossible to measure anything because the sector diet directly here in Spain, but we wanted to commit ourselves more ambitiously to fight against climate change. Then in 2020, we decided to go on with this challenge about against climate change, and that is why we develop a more ambitious and committed mitigation and adaptation strategy. Not only betting on offsetting, which as such is not a sufficiently useful tool to reduce our emissions, we are committed more with to avoid, to reduce, to replace, and if there is not other option, to compensate. We are compensating now with a local project here in Spain. Before we were working with a project in Mexico, in Sierra Gorda Biosphere Reserve. But now from 3 years ago, we are compensating with a local project. It's true that here in Spain it's not possible to have a holistic project of compensation, related not only with trees, plantations, if it's possible, not with other kind of projects as regenerative agriculture and other things, but by the moment is the other option that we have here. And based on this new climate action strategy, we have developed a specific climate-friendly product line, especially for North European markets. This is the reality. It's true that everybody is speaking now about low carbon trips, about climate-friendly travel, and all these kind of subjects, but is that is not, well, there isn't still a clear market for this kind of products or this kind of trips, but we decided to start to offer to the North European markets, especially Netherlands, Germany and Scandinavia. And from 2020, we have several travel programs in Spain for both for private and for corporate clients, and both types of trips are being marketed through our usual responsible tourism channels. This is this is important because as I said before, if it is not easy to have a clear market for this kind of trips in common common markets, is important to market these products, especially in responsible tourism channels. If not, maybe you have any client with interest in this new way to travel to Spain. After, if you can see in our website, but all these trips are developed to arrive to Spain not by plane, of course, trying to offer other options to arrive to Spain from France, from Germany, from Netherlands, from the north of Europe, especially by train, or by car, by electrical car. And this kind of transport, as Jose Maria said before, is so that is possible to use in Spain, but not in our country. It's not easy to develop new products reducing the emissions through sustainable transport in our country, but we try to use during all the trip public transport and other kind of sustainable mobility for traveling around Spain. Then we can offer this kind of products in some areas, in some regions of Spain, and not still in others. For example, in rural areas, in natural areas, it's not so easy to offer this kind of trips still. And we are also activists in all tourism initiatives, especially in the fight against climate change, such as Tourism Declares, SunX, Glasgow Declaration. Of course, we were one of the first tourism companies here in Spain signed Glasgow Declaration, and we received recognition during the COP25 in Madrid as one of the 101 ECODES climate change initiatives here in Spain for all this work developing with our strategy of mitigation and adaptation, and with for this new line, innovative product line of trips around Spain. We also work with the value chain, especially ecotourism, in order to help them decarbonize their services and tourism activity, because we need them, no? If our local providers are working in mitigation measures and in adaptation strategies, and the local destinations where we work, they are working in this way, is better for us, and it's easier for us to offer new products and new kind of trips around Spain. I would like to show you, you can see, bueno, here in our website, we have a small place dedicated especially to climate-friendly trips. Now here we have 3 examples, one in the Basque Country where we are located. I'm from the Basque Country, another one in Catalonia, and another one in the south of Spain. Bueno, you can see there the examples. These programs are especially developed for private travelers, not for companies, and they are small programs, or 4 or 5 days, and we try to include good local examples of measures of mitigation, adaptation, as for example, we visit in the Rioja Alavesa region, a traditional sustainable family winery, pioneer in certifying the neutrality of CO2 emissions for all its wines, obtaining emission neutral wines. Then, of course, we prepare all the trip with responsible and sustainable tourism criteria, but we add 2 criteria of for reducing the emissions, and at the same time we try to show good examples of good practices in the tourism sector and in other sectors, as the agricultural sector, for example, that they are fighting against climate change too. This is a small example. We include here in this program near San Sebastian, a very good project related eco ship, and there we include activities about awareness and eradication of the problem of sea garbage by empowering the population in the conservation of the environment. Then we need this kind of good examples and good projects fighting against climate change too in destinations. You can see there more, and I would like to share with you another example of the programs for especially developed for companies from the north of Europe, companies. I will share the other is where is I have to open, sorry, a ver, I will try. Is there? I go to now, okay. This other. Yes, it's here. Yes, this is an example that we develop especially more for corporate clients, no, for companies with responsible strategy, or a sustainability strategy or department in their companies from Denmark, from Germany, from Netherlands, and we are selling this kind of trips now, and it's possible not to have a small market in this kind of destinations. And this is an example developed more from Madrid to the south, including this kind of activities and experiences, but especially showing the situation of several natural protected areas or because the climate change. No, for example, the Tablas de Daimiel National Park, where is a place where you can see, especially the current situation of the park due to the climate change and all its effects in the present and I suppose future. Two, we include another special ecosystem from Andalusia, no, the olive oil fields. That is an ecological warehouse and a special ecosystem that contribute against climate change. And especially we work too with destinations as Sierra Nevada National Park, which is where you can see to the effects of climate change, and where you can find there an observatory of the effects. It's a project here in Spain related with several national parks, which are observatories of the effects of the climate change here in our country. And we can try to, as I said before, to include good examples of mitigation. And for example, here in the Tabernas Desert Natural Area, it's possible to visit the solar platform of Almeria. That is the biggest in Europe. And it's a good example as about how we can develop our energy and about way of life fighting against climate change. And I would like to end showing our own calculator of emissions. We use, as I said before, this calculator is developed by our team directly, because we were using several calculators from 10 years ago, and at the end we decided that the best one, it could be one developed especially or tailor-made for our activity and for our kind of products and trips, okay? And you can see how we include the transport, all kind of transport, small, the kind of fuel, all the kind of transport that we use normally in a trip, and the all kind of accommodations, the energy that we have here in Spain. It's for that we develop everything very tailor-made for our activity, with the name of the main companies of energy in Spain, about garbage and the possibilities of garbage too. The consume of water, and of course we use our own factors of emissions connected with the quantities included by the local government with the Basque government. Okay, then we are using this calculator, and we think that is much better than to use other calculators not so very well updated or adapted to our activity. And for ending, I would like to explain too that we also since 2020 we have been providing consultancy and training services on the subject about how to mitigate our emissions, especially for travel companies, especially for incoming travel agencies or travel agencies, how to mitigate, how to include strategies of adaptation that in my opinion is very, very interesting here, especially in Spain, because we are suffering. Last week we had 40 degrees in all Spain. Then we are suffering right now the negative effects of climate change. Then we have to start to include strategies of adaptation. And two, because it's not very common, but sometimes it's possible to have good impacts of the climate change. And it's important to take advantage of these positive effects in any destinations and any kind of companies, tourism companies. Then it's suitable to have these strategies of adaptation and to take the advantage against the competence. Sorry. For that, we are working especially together with the Tourism and Climate Change Knowledge Hub of the University of Deusto here in Spain, with which we have developed several projects and training for the local tourism sector, especially, about, especially we are trying to work campaigns and trainings about information at the beginning, and about how to develop capacities to develop our own action plan against climate change, including mitigation, adaptation, and offsetting options. And now we are currently developing in another project, in another consultancy project, together with Jose María de Juan and with his company Koan Consulting and other partners such as the University of Malaga, Eurecat, Geocil. They are leading the project for Fundación Biodiversidad here in Spain, especially in this field that I think that is very important, and where we have not a lot of information, a lot of real good practices and real practical information about adaptation of the tourism sector and destinations here in our country especially. Then, this is a small resume about what we are working as incoming travel agency and as consultancy. And if you have any question for me now or in the debate, we can speak more about all you want. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Susana. I think it's very important to see that to complement my reflections and the ideas we have in the project, also with what a company is really doing. I think is extremely important for me. This the reality of a small tour operator committed with the climate change and committed with really change the things, and also participating like we are in these projects is very humble nowadays. The one I mentioned is not humble, but it's just starting, and this one is a very small one, but I think it's the beginning of something very, very pioneer and very important. And now I think that with all what you said, and if anybody wants also to reflect or to comment on the questions I put on, and at the very beginning, then I think we can open the debate if there's anybody willing to comment, to share their opinions on all these facts. We are in the right way, we are not, what can be done from the side of the sector, what can be done from the destinations, what can be done from the side of the tourists. So every time I start writing an abstract or a conference on that, there are more and more questions every day. So it's quite complicated, and as Susanna said, there is not much information. Sometimes in some fields, she knows because she has been the first one working in this project about tourism and climate change. There is not much to share. So we are sometimes now trying to build the strategies with no background. So it's quite difficult, no? But we are for sure we are on the way. Okay, let's see. Anybody willing to comment?
I have a question.
Sorry, Nicola, just to say to Vanna, which
Yes.
is leaving, that for sure we will have the Zoom recording and will be shared together with my presentation. You can have all the information together. Sorry for that. Just please go ahead.
So thank you, Jose Maria, and thank you, Susana. That was a very interesting and insightful presentations, and also congratulations for the work you've been keeping and doing. But I wanted to start with a more like specific question for Susana, if that's possible, because I noticed on your website the Geste Biofest. Since I'm talking from Tenerife, I was curious to know more about how you've been involved in that, and also because living here in Tenerife, I think that probably it's a good place where to think about all these challenges that we have, because it's a very tricky destination from this point of view. I mean that if I recall correctly, it's the region in Europe where tourists spend the most nights. So it's really a massive tourism here. You can only come by long flights because, I mean, apart from Spain and Portugal, the rest is like 3 hours, 4 hours. And since there are many people from Germany, from England, and so on, from Northern Europe, and that means a lot. And also, maybe there are issues with the waste. Like, I think most of the waste, if not all the waste, is taken away by boat because there are no facilities here. Maybe if you could give some more insights on what are the challenges. And for instance, the Geste Biofest is a very interesting initiative in that direction, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's true that as I said before, no, it's not easy to develop this kind of trips or low carbon or climate-friendly trips all around Spain. For that, we have decided to start in which regions it will be possible to use more, no, this other kind of public transport, and especially not to fly. It's true that we were trying to work with island too, as Menorca, for example, because they are trying to have a strategy against climate change too. But we have to wait until they develop the other kind of mobility, no? Sustainable mobility is the reality, because if you want to offer climate-friendly trips to Menorca, you will have the big difficulty to include the flights. And as I said before, for us, the most important is not to I don't know how to explain in English, not to put every our efforts in the upsighting. No, we try to reduce, to delay, and to change the activities, the experiences, the destinations, if it's possible. And at the end, when you have not more options, okay, we try to do the upsighting. But in the case of Menorca or in Tenerife or Canary Island, of course, this will be the big problem, no? To reduce all your strategy of against climate change to upsiting. And I say this because I know that in Canary Island, especially, they are trying to develop new pioneer projects of upsiting. And okay, it's great, it's interesting, because at least they are developing projects of siting there in the destination, not abroad or in other countries or in the peninsula, for example. But as I said, always the upsiting is not the solution. We have to work more in mitigation and to reduce or to change the activities that we offer, or the kind of trips that we offer. It's true that at the same time in Canary Island, for example, I know that Cabildo of Tenerife, especially, they are trying to promote other kind of trips as for nomad, for technology, how is in English, nomadas, well, I don't know how to explain.
Digital nomads.
Digital nomads, yes, this. Because they are trying not to have people arriving there for staying more time, at least, well, if they arrive by plane, at least they will stay more time there. And for us, it's the same. We try not to when we send travelers to Canary Island or to Balearic Island, we try to offer a trip of several days there at least, not to stay 2 days a weekend. And we little by little we have to try to include this kind of small practices and to promote this other vision in the traveler, especially, because travelers are not very conscious about all this impacts, and especially about emissions. And the easier solution for the moment here, especially in Spain, from the sector, from the tourism sector, is the upsiting. A lot of big companies, a lot of destinations are promoting the upsiting indeed to promote mitigation measures and a real strategy of adaptation, and to take advantage of this situation against other destinations or companies. Then we hope to find more initiatives around mitigation and adaptation in our country, and especially in islands, in Canary and the Balearic Islands.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
I think if, I don't know if there are any more questions. We are now very few people because we understand that it's late, and also, as I mentioned at the beginning, these days during the week of the International Social Tourism Organization, there are so many activities at the same time everywhere in Europe and Latin America. Probably now is because also the Latin American, they have every day 10, 12 activities. So it's normal that, which is good for me, is that as we did in the first seminar, is the first webinar this afternoon, is that we have all the recording and the presentation, and then this will be shared to all our, not only the participants, but also openly to all our networks. So I'm very glad. I don't know if you want to make any last question or reflection, or I feel really, really happy that Susana was here, and we'll do our best also to disseminate all your experience and all your knowledge through this webinar. And there will be many occasions, especially as soon as our project is advancing and we have something to say. For sure, we'll find the moments to do it.
Yes, for Endina, I would like only to say that for us it's very important to have more ambitious strategies in destinations, in local destinations, and in local companies, as incoming travel agency here in Spain. If not, for us, it's impossible to offer low carbon trips or climate friendly travel. Then we need more destinations and more companies working in this way and trying to reduce the emissions of the tourism activity. Thank you.
Good. This is our challenge from the Good Travel Program to to find them and to help them. So at the end, we are in the two sides of the same reality, looking for the right companies and looking for the right people. And if they are not right, we can help them to be right. That's the point. So I think then I thank you very much. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, the participants, Pilar, Adriana, for supporting us. And thank you, Susana. We'll see each other soon in any event, I'm sure of that. And then thanks a lot, and we can finish the webinar by now. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.